Andrew is mentioned 13 times in the Gospels. 8 times he's identified as Peter's brother. 2 more times plus the previous 8. He's simply a name in a list of names. The 3 other times he plays a specific part in a narrative. And in each of those, we find him bringing someone to Jesus. On one occasion, it was a boy with his lunch. On another, it was some Greek proselytes. And on the occasion I have in mind in John 1:41, it's his brother Peter. Maybe it's okay to say if Paul is Stephen's gift to the church, Peter is Andrew's gift to the church. Can we make too much of the fact that on these 3 independent occasions, Andrew is bringing people to Jesus? Can we make that into a pattern of his life? Sure we can. We can make too much of it. But we can also make way too little of it. Anyway, people that make a habit of bringing people to Jesus, they're a sight to behold. Why don't we all do that? Why don't all of us who know the Christ, why don't we habitually bring people to Jesus? Well, aside from the obvious answers that finally remind us of our guilty silence, it's all too complex. And I don't have answers when things get to be very complex. The truth is, the simple often baffles the brains out of me. I'm not stupid, I don't mean that. I just mean that simple things are complex too, so I don't have answers for big questions. In any case, that's not what I want to stress at this point. I just want to rejoice in Andrew and speak my admiration for a soul that saw Christ and couldn't keep him to himself. I don't know why we all don't do it. But I know enough to know this, that you can only give what you've got. And Andrew had found something, someone, and he was excited about it. You can sense the urgency in John 1:41, can't you? First, he finds his brother Peter. There's a little debate over the correct Greek text, but we won't spend any time discussing that. It's easy to imagine Andrew early the next morning, after he has spent the night with the Christ, making his way through town in search of Peter. I wouldn't doubt for a minute that many people may have wanted to chat with him, but he wouldn't have had the time, would he? A wave maybe, and, "Yes, Jacob, hello." Sorry, I can't stop the talk. Peter, something I must. Well, later. There's no possibility, if we follow the sense of the narrative, there's no possibility that he and Peter met across at lunch and Andrew said, "Pass the salt, please. Oh, by the way, we find the Messiah. Yes, please, the bread as well. Thank you." As I was saying, no, that's not what the text breathes. It speaks to us of Andrew with shining eyes and thumping heart, maybe out of breath, finally gasping to Peter, "We find him." Of course he did. Of course he did. But I'll pass by the larger truth that it was the Messiah that found Andrew. You remember in John 15 when he says to the apostolic group, "You didn't choose me. I chose you." Still, he was right. We found them, for they were looking for him. But what was it that he found? What made his eyes shine and his heart thump? What was it he couldn't wait to tell Peter? What did he have in mind when he said, "We have found the Messiah"? It wasn't 7 steps to success he found. He hadn't found new interpersonal relationship skills. He hadn't uncovered schemes to manage the wrongs of society or ways in which to reform the abuse in society. Not denying their relative importance. But bless me, that's not what he found. The truth is, he didn't fully know what he had found. But he knew enough to know that he had found the one that was the self-revelation of God. I don't mean that he understood all that we now understand. But he knew that in the Messiah, didn't know it as well as we do, didn't know it as well as he later came to know it, but he knew that in him, God was disclosing himself. He knew that he had found the one that exposed the lie that God had forgotten. No, he remembers. He knew that he found the one that exposed the sickening feeling that God didn't care. He does care. He knew that he found the one that buried the nonsense that God was faithless. Now, God is faithful to his promises. He knew he found the one in whom God said, once and for all and forever, "I have not, and I will not ever, will I abandon you." That's who he found. That's what made his eyes shine. That's what made him breathless and his heart thumping. And that's what would have gasped out to Peter. We found the Messiah. I wonder, you, not somebody else, did you find that in finding Christ? If you're in the mood, you want to talk about it, drop me a note. Drop me a note.